welcome in to the Stalking Dead here on Elevation 5280 Sports and Lifestyle. I'll tell you what, though, that beat kicked in right at the right moment as we are finally here, Mark. We made it. We made it to our first episode of the Stalking Dead. We're only, 4 episodes too late, but we are here.
Better late than never.
Yeah, that is what's happening with us here on this Sunday evening, leading you up to hopefully each new episode of whatever spinoff The Walking Dead throws at us. As right now we are starting fresh. We're going to just call this The Stalking Dead Episode 1, and maybe I'll go back and edit when I find out how many in the past we've done. But for right now, we are Episode 1. We are previewing, recapping, looking ahead to Daryl Dixon spinoff of The Walking Dead Season 2, which is also subtitled The Book of Carol, and we will be reviewing Episode 4. Now, I'm going to get all of these names wrong because all the episode names are in French, so excuse my pronunciation, but I'm guessing it's called Le Paradis pour toi. Did that sound French?
That sounds close enough to me.
All right. Well, that was Episode 4. We'll also be looking ahead to Episode 5, which we will get to in a second. But leading up to Episode 4, Mark, what have you thought of the Book of Carol so far?
Well, I want to say that I thought I had it figured out. I thought I knew which way it was going to go after Episode 2, and I was like, okay, this is what they're going to do with Laurent. This is how they're gonna, I figured, all right, Daryl's gonna, win over the hearts of Laurent and Isabel, right? They're gonna figure out that they're getting screwed over. They're gonna bounce, right? And I mean, it kind of happened, but in no way, shape, or form that I would have guessed. And I love it. I mean, same Walking Dead writers, right? I mean, everything. I mean, even if you guess it right, you're still wrong, right? You know what I mean? So keeping me on the edge of my seat, I love it.
Yeah, a lot of people you read on social media, read wherever. There's always gonna be haters, but always people just waiting for stuff to come out to talk crap about it. But this is where we, as a network, kind of get to put our nerd hat on and kind of deviate away from sports a little bit and talk about, not necessarily cultural stuff, but I guess, pop culture, so to speak. And The Walking Dead is an OG series, ran 11 seasons, which a lot of people are saying it was maybe 2-3 seasons too long than what it needed to be. But actually the last season of the OG series was actually pretty good. But all these spinoffs, like you said, same writers, same executive producers. Greg Nicotero is working on this project. The old show writers from the OG series are working on this project. Denise Huth is on this project, just to name a few. And if you watch kind of the discussions after the show, you can kind of get a sense of who's still on it. So Scott Gimple's on this show as well as an EP as well. He's a former showrunner of the original series. So a lot of original names, and obviously you're going to have Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride return as Carol. And, so far, Mark, we've seen split storylines because Carol's still back in the United States. Turns out, I don't know if it's just me, but I had no idea the Commonwealth was in Ohio, first of all. Yeah.
No, me either.
No idea.
Zero clue.
Yeah, I thought they were still like in Virginia, maybe on the East Coast somewhere.
Right.
Turns out, not even Deshaun Watson wants to go back to Ohio. That's how bad it is. So, I mean, we're just talking about the mistake by the lake, as they say. I'm just kidding. I have family in Ohio, but still, I had no idea they were in Ohio. Somehow they got split off, and they haven't really shown like kind of how Daryl got to France. I want to say, I know he made it on a boat. They really didn't go into it, unless I'm completely forgetting the first season, but he ended up on a boat and made his way to France. And, all the naysayers marketing be like, the hell is Daryl doing in France? Like, what is this? What is this show doing? And it's kind of a cool getaway from the norm, and kind of showing, I guess, how other countries are dealing with stuff.
Well, and like I think there was a lot of things that were kind of fillers, like mental fillers, I guess if you'd say, where you'd have to fill it in yourself. But the way that Daryl was talking about getting onto that boat with Isabel when he first got to the nest, the way he kind of talked to Carol about it in this last episode, it was almost like he had a plan to kind of just get away, to come back, and it kind of went awry. So I mean, because the haters are coming out and saying, what the hell's Daryl doing this and that, and it's like, I think there was, when you come from the writer and producer standpoint, where it's like, hey, this is something that we get to have fun with, where you guys get to fill in the blanks a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of shows do that. The audience kind of has to guess, make their own presumptions of how, who, what, where happened at a particular point in time. So, I mean, we all do know that, and we're kind of going back a little just because this is our first episode talking about all this. Daryl did leave Ohio, turns out, to, he went to go look for Rick. And right. That's how he somehow ended up in Maine, because that's where
Carol ended up.
That's where Carol ended up. But do you remember where Daryl took off from? Was it?
It was Maine. It was Maine because because when Carol finally got the scent of Daryl, and found those boats, it was right off the coast.
She ran into the auto boys.
Yeah, she handled business there. Dude, Carol's always been a badass though, and I think one of my favorite things about this season is you still get to see her badassery, if you will. Plus, we're also starting to see kind of a little bit of more of emotion with her daughter, all the way back from season 2, in the OG series, and I think I like that because we're also starting to see more emotion in Daryl as well.
Yeah, and if you've heard me on these podcasts way back when, writing review and recaps for the site, so go to e5280sports.com. I am a sucker for a flashback, Mark. I love the flashbacks. I love when they go back and show, how that person got here. And we'll talk about Janae's kind of evolution to where she got. But, when Ash, just a first of all, awesome character name, Ash. Nice guy, has a plane. He's gonna get manipulated for his plane. We all know this. But every time I hear Ash, I think of Ash Ketchum. Anyway,
right, so same.
Yeah, so every time, so when he goes and opens the barn to let Carol stay there, she has that moment of when, remember, way back when, like you were just saying, when Shane opened the barn and Sophia comes walking out as a walker. I mean, I think Carol got that, and I think Daryl got it in one of these last couple episodes where somebody opened a door and he just kind of froze. And I love those flashbacks. I love when they go back and tell, almost to when the outbreak started and stuff like that. I love those moments. Still waiting to see and know how it all started, because we still really haven't seen Patient Zero. Maybe one day, maybe one day we'll experience that moment. But yeah, I am a sucker for flashbacks and kind of telling a character's story or a group of people's story before the outbreak.
I also love that. Just to build on that, I think that's one of my favorite things. Also, not only to build on a character's origin, if you will, but also, I mean, it's been so long since any of us had seen season 1 or 2, at least for me. And so not only do you get something new, but you also get a refresher on some things too. Obviously, there's things that you're not going to forget, but you get a refresher. And then the other thing is that visual of, oh man, that's exactly how this character was feeling at this particular time. And then you get the evolved and currently evolving character as well, and that's what I'm a sucker for, is watching that.
Yeah, and during the original series, obviously Daryl was a beloved character all throughout, and he wasn't in the comics. I don't know if you've read the comics, but I finally did a couple years ago, and he's not in the comics. So him and his brother Merle were, new characters introduced in the show, and whoever wrote them as a character, uh, they should also be gifted votes because they were smart when they thunk up these characters. So,
Right.
and then you have Carol, and kind of, they always watched over each other during the original series. Obviously, in this series, we don't really get a sense of Carol in season one. Season two, obviously, it's called the Book of Carol, so we know there's going to be some sort of reunion. We had been waiting for when and where and how that was going to happen, and we'll get to that here in a second. But they were they ever in love? Like, did they ever? I mean, did they ever do this? Did Daryl even like females? There was a whole bunch of questions
Right.
surrounding their relationship, surrounding, you know, not really Carol's sexual preference, but Daryl's sexual preference for sure, because we never really saw him with the woman except for I forgot her name in that cabin. I don't even remember what season it was of the OG series. Like it was between season 8 and 11, I think, somewhere in there. But that's back when he had Dog, great character,
Right.
and I just don't remember them
You know,
ever having that kind of relationship.
I've always gotten a brother, sister, mom, son. I mean, I know they're not different in age, but I've always that how family members care for one another, in kind of a protection kind of thing. I've never gotten a romantic kind of love out of them. I've gotten a different kind of love from jump. Really, I
Yeah,
mean, when he gave her the flower from after her daughter and everything like that, and I mean from then on, I mean, I feel like, I mean, they kind of said it perfectly on the talking points after the show. I forget which episode it was. Um, where Carol has always found home in Daryl. You know what I mean, and vice versa. And I don't think that's kind of a romantic love, in my opinion. I never really got that off of either of them.
yeah, and there had been moments and times where fans kind of wanted them just to hook up, just to get it out of the way. I remember back in the OG series, they were sitting somewhere, and again, I'd have to go back and look this up, but they were sitting somewhere, and Daryl said something about I again I it's way back in the memory banks, but I remember Carol responding like, "All right," she said, "Just screw it, let's do it."
Right.
Where she said, "You want to do it?" And Daryl did have that like brother, or maybe even more of a cousin reaction, like get the hell out of here, like shut up. Um, yeah. Um, but it almost seems like this journey for Carol is almost a romantic journey to get Daryl back, to get him back in her life. I don't know if you read it the same way. And I guess we didn't start off this show by saying, yeah, tons of spoilers ahead, by the way. So just keep that in mind. But I mean, there's a sense of, I got to go get the love of my life back. And again, all throughout the original series, it never really felt like that. There was a couple of moments where, like, hey, it might happen, but then it never did. And again, a lot of people were questioning Daryl's sexuality because they have a lot of time on their hands. But you kind of think about it now, where okay, because we saw what happened with him and Isabel.
Right. And I think that was the first time. I was going to touch on that too. Is the first time, like when he finally does kiss Isabel, and they kind of, I mean, they're both kind of like fighting it before that kiss. That's the first time. I mean, it's been forever since I've seen any kind of human emotion, if you will, from Daryl. I mean, any emotion that you've ever seen has either been traumatic or devastation or just sheer reaction for protection and survival. And this is kind of this is it's new and unfound territory to kind of see the emotion coming out of Daryl like that.
Yeah, and you could see when, guards or whatever would take her away, he would just almost come to tears, like, just like, where are you
Yeah.
taking her, stuff like that. And we'll get to it in a second because I want to talk about Carol's reaction when she kind of found out that Daryl knew Isabel, and we'll get to that. But season or excuse me, episode 4 starts off with, you know, um, I guess it's Madame. Is it Madame Genet?
Yep.
She We got to see her whole kind of not really backstory, but how she, and again, not even really how she became how she got to be, not even her rise of power. But it was cool to
Just
how they
kind of where
flashed
she
back.
started.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how they flash back to her as a cleaning lady in the Louvre in Paris, one of the most, historical places that you can go to in the world. And, she's trying to get off her shift. Her husband's waiting for her outside. And all of a sudden, you just see walker zombies just flying all over the place. He gets taken down. And it doesn't really have a time frame of how long she's stuck in the Louvre with the other survivors down there. So between then and now, she obviously learned and became a leader somehow. We also saw a couple of familiar faces with her down in the Louvre. There were kind of cleaning ladies, cleaning people with her. Um,
Like they were a
say
part of a union, almost.
Yeah, and I forgot her name.
Her,
Sabi.
her
It's like,
right hand
yeah,
woman.
her right hand woman, and I think it's Sabi is her name, if I'm not
I think,
mistaken.
I think you're right.
But we saw her down there, so obviously she even thought was like, hey, this is a person that I can follow and I am going to follow. So between then and now, yeah,
They being there it
Sabine,
is.
yeah, whatever. But her name is Marianne Genet. But anyway, she somehow learned how to lead, became a leader for these people, got them out, and got them into what seems like a pretty well set up, fortified community.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean the I guess instead of currency, if you will, I mean they're able to find a way to continue to have rounds for their weapons, continuous food supply, um, continuous generator and electricity help. I mean, they've got themselves into a real healthy position.
Yeah, for sure. Not only that, the science to create whatever kind of lethal injection they're putting into people, and that's how this episode kind of started off. Episode 4 was they just gunned down a whole bunch of people. But first of all, before we get to that, did, you talked about switch ups and twists and turns and stuff like that. I did not see Janae's pulling out the bullshit card on Carol. Like, I know you're lying, and now you get to kill your friend because you're going to be a walker as you do it. I did not see that coming. I don't. I'm trying to. I went back and was like, when did Janae like figure Carol out? Because Carol's like, I came over looking for my daughter. I want to kill Daryl. Um, I mean, about 97% of her story was the truth, minus Sophia, but and
And the
minus
fact that you wanted to kill Daryl.
yeah, and minus that point as well. But I was like, when does Janae just kind of see through that?
I almost called it right away on that point because I mean the way that she was, she's ran her operation that we've seen so far. Obviously, those Nazi type experiments that they got going on. Um, the like, and to kind of touch on just who Madame Genet's been. I mean, you think about it that when the one soldier kind of knocks his plate down while they're in chow, and, and he's like, oops, and then she made him eat it off the floor. All these things that I seen where it was kind of maybe a really good person turned really really bad, who thought that they were doing right. I almost felt like from start she would have seen right through Carol just because of the person that she became. And I remember I was watching it and I was like, I don't know if she bought it. I don't know if she bought it. And start of episode 4. she puts them in the pile with the rest of them, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna fare well. And the fact that Carol was able to duck out, of the machine gun fire and escape the lethal shot, that was intense.
Yeah, and it also adds to the badassery of Carol that you talked about. She just knew she had to drop right away, not only to not get shot, but to make it seem like she got shot. Before we move on, though, I want to get to still your point when Janae just kind of saw through Carol. I thought she was like, hey, another badass chick made her way all the way from the U.S. to, I guess, kill Daryl is what, and I'm speaking out loud in the mind of Janae, thinking, this badass chick came all this way to kill Daryl. Hell yeah, I'm gonna put her in my army. Hell yeah, she made it this far as a woman, kind of by herself. She doesn't really know her background all that much, but kind of probably when she snuck with the with the one dude with the glasses who ratted her out, when they snuck and they found out the genetic testing of zombies or whatever they were doing over there. And then I guess I kind of can see it where she said she wanted to kill Daryl. I think that's what kind of maybe sent the alarm bells ringing in Janae's head, like, I don't think you'd come all this way to kill Daryl. But that's just kind of my thoughts on that. But I thought she was like, hey, badass chick, hell yeah. I mean, my front office is made up of badass chicks. Hell yeah, join us.
Right. Well, and I think that was also, I mean, that was also kind of the other belief that I had was you had the guy in the glasses who kind of, snitched on her or whatever, but also you gotta think, I mean, once again, the type of organization this badass chick is leading, you don't get there just by kind of trusting anybody. But also it's like I think I mean, obviously she's a brilliant person to get to the spot where she was at. But then you got to think about it too. It's like, okay, so you're coming into my place where you sought my organization out. You're asking everybody questions. You're kind of going against the grain, not really doing what you're supposed to do. Um, you're doing just enough to fly under the radar to ask all these questions, get all this information. One doesn't typically do that just to seek revenge. Risking your own life to get revenge. That's, you know what I mean, kind of thing. You don't really see that, and I kind of think that's why Madame Janae was just like, all right, I'll play along with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess I can kind of see that as well. It's just I was just hoping for I don't know if I was hoping for a different result than what it turned out to be, but it turned out pretty cool. As we come back to the beginning of episode 4, when they gun down everybody, Carol just drops because she knows she's got to. But then I was thinking, like, oh my god, like everyone's gonna turn to these, I guess, more malicious walkers. I don't. They almost
Like,
turned, and I think I wrote this down in the article I wrote, Mark, and that was they basically are turning into World War Z zombies because these dudes can
I was
fly.
gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, these things can run, they can sprint. Um,
And they fight way better now.
yeah, they
If you
and
notice that, like when they not to jump too far ahead, but when they release them into the nest, it's like now they're not just like ordinary walkers where you kind of, unless you're outnumbered, you can really just knock them over the head and then stab them in the head real quick or whatever. These things you actually got to put some real effort into it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, these guys seemed a lot more harder to take down, but they realized pretty 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 much after they got shot that Carol was not part of them, and somehow she sneaks away, jumps on the go kart with Homeboy attached to it. Turns out Homeboy had a whole different change of heart. Um, I kind of liked his character, to be honest with you, in season 1.
And
He just
and let's call it what it is. I mean, we don't know if he's for sure gone yet or not.
no, we in the Walking Dead universe never assume anyone is
Unless you
dead or
see a
alive.
body.
Yeah,
Unless you see a body.
unless you see them turn, they are okay. And this was a Stefan Cordron.
And he started off too, like in season one, trying to avenge his brother's death. After that scene when when Daryl, meets up with that. I don't know if that was a father and daughter, or what they were, but I thought for sure, I think it was really cool how this season kind of really evolved because I thought, okay, this is gonna be our main bad guy, and then like a super bad guy came out of nowhere. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. And then Madame Janae obviously turns into I don't know if she's the main villain of season one, obviously, or season two, excuse me, because obviously you have oh, this guy is so funny. But obviously you have Lasang, who is just I don't. I mean, he's just the most positive person while being super villainous, and we'll get to him in a
Angers
second.
me.
Yeah,
His whole character
yeah,
angers me.
he needs to go away.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, and then Carol just drives the go kart up to the nest, doors wide open. Why not get everybody in there? And that's when just the free flowing walkers go in there, and Janae's army and the Nest army are just having it out. And one of my favorite scenes of this episode, Mark, was the dude comes running in the jail cell, has to open it, and that's when we start hearing explosions and they're bombing the
oh,
place and stuff like that. Yeah, and
the
Daryl just holds up his arm like, dude, you got to let me out of here because none of you guys can fight like me. And then this is where it happened, Mark. Daryl, fights his way
great
through the
reunion.
lockers. Yeah, fights his way through some of the other soldiers and stuff like that. And then, of course, he spots Carol. Now, obviously, we've been waiting for this reunion for a couple of. It almost seems like we've been waiting for this reunion for like 3 seasons, but it was actually only 3.5 episodes that we got this reunion. Was this the reunion you were hoping for, that you wanted? Were you satisfied with it? Were you hoping for more? What did you think of it?
I wanted more. I wanted more. Now, here's the thing. I do love the fact that they, you know, had to fight through a hallway and they didn't even realize that's what, was at the end of either hallway. I like that aspect, but I feel this kind of went different than, normal Walking Dead writing where I thought it was gonna be not drug out a little bit more, but I thought there was gonna be a little bit more hoops to jump through. I thought maybe they're gonna have to like village hop a little bit to catch up to one another. Um, and I also I wish, I mean, granted, I understand, Daryl's going through a lot. I wish there was more time for them to be like, okay, boom, this is what's going on, instead of kind of just like, okay, so they walked all those miles and discussed nothing. You know what I mean? I wanted just a little bit more. I love the fight scene, how they did it. I just wish the buildup didn't quite match uh, the climax, if that makes sense for me, anyways.
No, it totally makes sense, and I was hoping for more. Also, what what I saw in my head, I don't know how to. I don't know what I wanted more of. And it was almost kind of cool that she kind of ran into Isabel first, and I don't know if she really saved her life because, well, spoiler alert, we all know what happened to Isabel in a couple of minutes here. Um, but it was kind of cool how Carol saved her life and kind of ran into her first,
Right.
and
I
then
did like that.
yeah, and kind of was like, obviously Isabel told her something about Daryl, like you got to go find Daryl. He's probably over here. So that's why Carol was kind of in the right vicinity near the cells that they were being held in. And again, you said, Daryl's kind of been the one that showed no emotion. I mean, he literally broke into tears once he saw Carol.
Right.
And that's just that, again, kind of that brother sister relationship that we were talking about, but also like, I guess I haven't seen this person in a long time. Maybe this is my long lost love and Carol. I mean, come on, Carol Daryl, it rhymes. You almost have to be together. But she tells like, hey, we gotta get over to Isabel. Um, I really love the Isabel character. I love the actress who plays her.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, man, she looks familiar from season one. I was like, So I looked her. I was like, oh yeah, she was in Harry Potter. She was in this. She was in that.
Oh,
So
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, she was one of the witches school that came and visited Hogwarts and Harry Potter. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I really liked her character. I like the actress that plays her. I was kind of, I mean, were you sad at Isabel's death? I was kind of sad, like, oh, now we don't get to see really happy Daryl. I wanted to see, I wanted to see like a little, Daryl and Isabel
Thing.
and Laurent play house in Ohio.
I was just about to say the same thing. I was kind of hoping, for a Disney ending, if you will, with that situation. But I was also, not only was I sad because I loved the character, loved what possibilities would open for Daryl, but I also was sad because, I mean, one, she had already done a lot of training on her own, but then she started training with Daryl when Laurent was pulling aside. Um, and I was like, you know, all you did was a slice on the cheek. I mean, I feel like it would have been a little bit more. Um, I guess I don't want to say deadly because if you're in that kind of situation, just coming straight to you. I mean, you're going to go for the first thing that's open. I just feel I wish she would have died more badass. You know what I mean? I just taking a knife to the gut after one little slap on the cheek, if you will. That was kind of a gut punch for me on top of losing a character that I really liked. Um, I don't know. And the first season, um, when they first introduced her, when she watches Daryl walk, when he first gets away from those guys, like you could automatically like, okay, we were kind of getting like, hey, maybe this is another badass female that we get to see, really tear things up. And I feel like she went out like a punk. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like she should have got more of a kind of badass death, if you will. Um, yeah, I thought she was going to make it through a little knife wound, but
Yeah, so did I.
that's
They fooled
they
me for sure.
yeah, they were definitely dangling the carrot in front of
Yeah.
Daryl, like, here you go, here you go. Never mind.
Right, and,
Um,
and then when she first came walking out, I was like, okay, she's not really pale. There's not a whole lot of blood on the floor. Then they started walking her, and I was like, okay, now you can see a little bit more blood with it with each footstep. And then, when she got outside, I was like, all right, she looks a little bit stronger. Maybe it's gonna be all right. So, you know, it really
yeah,
wasn't until Daryl came back to her where it was like, oh yeah, no,
yeah,
she's
she was
done.
like, yeah, she was like yellow and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I was kind of like, oh, I wanted to see her her and Daryl make it, but now they're in a kind of a panic to go find Laurent, and I want to backtrack really quick here to episode 3. They were basically using Laurent as some kind of prophecy that somebody read somewhere that he was basically a reincarnate of Jesus and he could get bit and not turn, which was a terrible idea.
Yeah, it was really a big time cult drink the Kool-Aid type
Yeah,
move for
definitely,
sure.
definitely, and that's why I am. What's his name needs to go. I just Lasang and to the actor's credit, he plays him so well that you just
Oh,
want him to die.
well, that and the female, I forget the female that he's. I don't know if they're in love. I don't know really what's going on
I,
there.
I think her name is Jacinta, something like that.
I think that sounds right. But see, she's kind of pulling the whole, in his ear type thing too. Because I feel like if you remember, it was like what episode 2 where he was really kind of behind Daryl and Isabel, where hey, he's telling Daryl, I hope you choose to stay. I understand why you want to leave, type thing. You know what I mean? Obviously, we were all skeptical still. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like hey, maybe there was a shot. But then you had her in his ear, and it got worse, and it got worse, and now look where we're at.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that after Janae's death, another two really big characters die in this episode: Janae and Isabel, and even Sylvie. The previous episode where they just basically throw her off the side of the wall and they
Right.
use her as the ceremonial walker. How fitting that it was one of Laurent's friends.
And then
That
when he said, "Oh, it's because of the love that she had for LeBron." I was like, "Ah, that's dirty, dude.
yeah, this
That's
is
dirty."
yeah. I mean, in a zombie apocalypse, I would love to smoke what they're smoking, but At this, I mean, you just have no worries in the world. You're in a giant nest. Um, with again another group that I mean really lucked out with where they're living. That seems like a pretty cool setup.
A secluded castle. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think they said it was located in Normandy. The Mont Saint Michel or something like that. Mont Saint
Yeah,
something like that
and
in Normandy.
you can see in every direction, so no one
Yeah,
can sneak up on you. Nothing can sneak up on you.
and if you notice when they're talking about it, we have to wait till high tide, which means sometimes it's surrounded by water. I guess we know that walkers can't swim. We don't know about the new World War Z zombies yet if they could swim, but well, maybe we'll find that out in a later episode. But anyway, they go forward. They go forward. It almost seems like kind of Janae even had, excuse my language, a bitch death. I mean, she for all that she kind of deserved a little bit more, in my opinion. And I kind of liked her character. Um, we didn't really know too much about her. She was kind of been trailing Daryl this whole time, and but it seems like she kind of built a well-oiled machine in her, like we just talked about, pretty fortified. I mean, they had army trucks, they had food trucks. It seemed like they've been doing pretty well for a while, and it
They,
almost seemed,
they haven't run out of rounds yet. I mean, they're
yeah,
still shooting.
anything, yeah. And again, their science is obviously advanced. I mean, they're just and for her to go out the way she did, almost seemed kind of, I don't know. It seemed like she could have gone a better way.
I know, I agree. I'm glad you said that because I was hoping, especially like, she was in that standoff where she had, both arms out, looking both ways with a pistol in her hand. I was like, okay, maybe they're gonna talk her down. They're gonna take her, as captive. All right, now we got some leverage. Now we got some headway. We'll find Laurent. Maybe do some negotiations down the road or something like that. That's kind of what I was hoping for. But yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, she also went down like a punk. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm
It's
I'm glad it was like Daryl and Carol to finish her off, but
same,
still, it could have gone, I think, a cooler way. Um,
same.
and they could have even prolonged Isabel's death till this moment, like have her die in a freaking gunfight at least.
What would have been cool? What I really, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking about it too when I was watching the episode. What I really would have loved is after that, the old man sells him out. Um, I would have really loved if Isabel made it this far, knowing that she's not gonna make it, and then kind of like a self-sacrifice on the way out, taking them all down with her, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly, and that's yeah. And so both of them could have kind of got. I'm glad that it was Daryl and Carol that kind of stopped Janae, but I think Isabel. I think they were kind of both due a better death, but yeah, it's over and we got to move on. And it's kind of crazy to see back at the nest. Janae's army is still kind of there. Lassant's army is obviously still there, or Lasang's army is still there. Obviously, Lasang is still there, and without saying words, Mark, it almost kind of came like they're kind of feeling each other. They're all kind of vibing off each other. Like, hey, let's join forces, drink some more Kool Aid, and
All
maybe
right.
murder another kid.
Well, and that was one thing towards the end because it's like I almost feel like it's a setup at the same time because Madame Janae's right hand woman, she's another badass, character who's obviously survived the initial outbreak, and then got up to power. I don't see her not retaining power. I don't see her just saying, all right, hey, you know what? Madison is dead, so we're just gonna pass it off to the next guy, and I'm gonna keep my same rank. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be true too. I mean, it seems like Lasang is a pretty. I don't know what the word is, but he seems just pretty dirty, just like a dirty, manipulative. I mean, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, to be honest with you, and I'd want to throw
Right.
him off one of those walls. But
Amen.
yeah, it's going to be interesting where they go, kind of with that storyline. I mean, do we see more of that storyline now that Janae is dead. Obviously, Lasang is still gonna keep searching for Laurent. We haven't found Laurent yet. Um, we assume that he's still because the Didi and Homeboy obviously saw him at some point, but him and Falou, I think his name is, him and
Yeah.
Falou are still running about. So I'm curious to see where they run into them. Um,
Falou, he rapidly became one of my favorite characters, but he's a sleeper character.
yeah,
I almost thought like immediately when he was part of the truck that they saved, I almost thought like, okay, this guy will be saved and like he'll go down as a martyr, dying somewhere in kind of a nearby battle. But the fact that they've kind of made him important, that they had was it episode 3, that standoff in that room with the traitor, and Falou was kind of, he was dead to rights. He was kind of done, and Daryl came in and Isabel came in and saved him, and now he's helping Laurent. Like, I almost feel like this sleeper character is gonna come up and he's gonna be like, look, this is what Daryl would have wanted. We're gonna keep going this way. Daryl catch up. Daryl find us. Daryl's a badass. He'll find us.
yeah, and I like Falou as well, and doesn't say too much. And like you said, a sleeper character. I mean, he could die next episode, or he could save a whole bunch of people and kill a whole bunch of people. That's just kind of the character that I have a kind of a vibe on him. Is just kind of that guy who is just in the right place at the right time, knows how to obviously quietly sneak away from situations with guiding a kid out of a situation. So we shall see what happens in episode 5 here. That if you have AMC Plus, obviously you were able to watch it. We won't talk about it until next week, but it'll be interesting what they see, what happens now with the two groups, and by those two groups I mean the rest of Janae's army. So I'm guessing Sabine's army. I guess, like you said, maybe she's taken over this army, or do they just merge and just call it Lasang's
That's,
army? If Sabine was
I
smart,
mean,
she would not want
that's
Lasang
what they
to run
wanted
this.
us to believe.
Yeah,
They wanted us to believe that they're gonna merge. But like I said, every time we've had a strong character, every single time, it's never been an easygoing, yeah, we'll just team up and everything. You know what I'm saying? I've been fooled too many times. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
yeah. But at the same time, too, you're like, because Lasang and Sabine kind of gave each other a look like, hey, well, this could work, and they both kind of like, yeah. But like you said, a twist could come, and Lasang has just guns hiding somewhere. Sabine has more freaking World War Z zombies hiding somewhere, and just unleashes them on everyone. I mean, like you said, yeah, two things could happen, or they could just turn at each other at the same time. We have an all-out gunfight. I mean, you never know, and I don't know if we'll see that in episode 5. Will now Daryl and Carol minus Isabel catch up? Who's going to find Laurent first? I mean, obviously Daryl and Carol have the edge up because they somehow escaped, obviously and always without being seen. They just magically escaped the nest without anybody seeing them.
I say,
With two armies pretty much looking for them, they just got away.
especially at dawn. I mean, all that out, all that open space,
Yeah, you
and
would you would see somebody walking away.
especially when you're dressed all in black and the sand around you is pretty light.
Yeah, so they obviously got away scot free, but obviously they were caught up on. Obviously, Janae caught up to them because of old homeboy told on him, but we'll see. We'll see who kind of catches up to Laurent first. I still feel like Lasang's going to be like, we still need to sacrifice this kid. We still need to see. We'll bring. Hey, Laurent, you go. We'll bring the zombies to you. We don't usually make house calls, but we'll do it for this kid.
Right. And what's crazy too is like you kind of touched on it earlier. When at the end of the episode, he said, "Well, let's find the child." It's it's almost as if it's inevitable where Daryl and Carol are in this second-rate car that they just had to fix up in a hurry, nonetheless. Um, and they only have as good as an idea as Lassane does, and not only that, but way less rounds, less weapons. I don't know. It almost seems inevitable that Daryl and Carol are gonna have to do a rescue mission.
Yeah, and again, did they pick up all? I mean, they killed what, 4 or 5 people at the house? Did they
At
even
least,
pick
at
up
least.
those? Did they even pick up those guns? Did they pick up that ammo? Because I only saw Daryl throw literally one gun into the back seat.
I was gonna say I only saw one,
Yeah,
and they ran out of the shotgun ammo, and the original gun that Daryl had was already still back there, and we don't know how much ammo that had.
yeah. So again, are they picking up these rounds? They need them. Are they picking them up? Are they using it? Like what? Why aren't they doing that?
It's
It,
definitely, I don't know, like it's definitely going to be interesting. And don't get me wrong, obviously in this type of world, you're going to need any weapon that you can get, and virtually anything could be a weapon. But that old style mace that that medieval mace he has in the back seat, along with that gun, that's not going to get it done against an army.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. I don't know why Carol didn't keep Daryl's crossbow for him. Just a whole bunch of questions like why. It's always going to be why this, why that, and maybe the next episode will explain a whole bunch as as we'll maybe find out more. But who's going to catch up to Laurent? I think is a big question. Is Laurent going to be with Falou? Is Falou still
Right,
his bodyguard at this point?
right. Well,
Yeah. So
the crossbow thing, I want to touch on that real quick. The other thing that shocked me, I don't know if it was the second episode or the third episode, when Carol, it was the third episode, I think, when Carol finally gets to France and tracks down that truck by the old Hansel and Gretel move, and you know, she was so quick to. I mean, granted, I know she was, finding Daryl was the main thing, but she was so quick to give up her weapon to just see what was going on, and that to me was kind of shocking. It was like you have no idea what you're walking into, and she immediately handed the weapon over. And granted, she tried to escape, but it was just, those are more questions that I have. Like, it's like Carol's been in way too many tough spots to be able to just freely give up a weapon. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, and kind of going back to when we were like, what have you thought of this season so far? And I think I wrote in a couple of the articles on the website is seemed like Carol got to Paris not only pretty quick but pretty damn easy. Like they
Pretty
ran,
safe.
yeah, they ran into those weirdos in Greenland. I mean, let's face it, Carol probably could have taken those two weirdos out by herself. Because let's face it, this little chick somehow chained Ash up to a plane. She did have a rifle on her, but still, come on, dude.
Yeah,
And
that didn't sit well with me either.
yeah, and it was just a weird, brief existence of some new characters, and that was really the only, I guess, scuff that they ran into on their way. And
I mean,
minus,
even the walkers they ran into wasn't even that.
yeah, I thought they were going to run into I thought like the plane was going to crash maybe, or like somehow a walker like made it into the plane and was kind of sleeping and then woke up
Nope,
and then
just a
yeah.
patched up fuel line.
Yeah, I know. We just need fuel, typical plane problems, just fuel. Like, I mean, even to make it from Maine to Greenland in that type of plane was pretty remarkable. And then from Greenland to France, that's not a
It's not
small
no
trip.
skip and a jump.
Yeah, and not only that, you're flying over an ocean. I mean, I thought we were going to see, Carol on a door and Ash trying to get on the door, but she wouldn't leave him room like the Titanic. I thought we were going to just see a whole bunch of bad scenarios, but she just made it over there. Both of them just made it over there quick and easy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That didn't sit well. But also, the weirdness of the two Greenlanders, where she wanted to kind of restart the population, and then I
I mean,
did hate.
she kind of had a point, but
I did hate. I did hate how the one went down. I mean, obviously now you can't trust either of them. It's very obvious. But I hate when she spared Carol and like, hey, are you, can I still go? I hate how she went out. Totally makes sense, obviously. I mean, the foreshadowing on the flare gun was they kicked you in the face with it. I mean, they showed it 3 different times on the seat before Ash got out. I mean, obviously we knew it was going to come into play at some point. So it all makes sense, but I was kind of like, you know what? Yeah, she messed up, excuse my language. Well, let's give this bitch a chance. You know what I mean? Let's just see what's going on.
Yeah. And yeah, that was just a weird scenario. I mean, it seemed like they had a cool little thing going down. I was gonna say van down by the river, but they're whatever that was. I don't know what if that was a house that was previously there. It kind of almost looked like a greenhouse that was using that water or like for for some kind of electricity power. I don't know, but it seemed like they had a pretty good thing going there. It seemed like nobody else was around, and yeah, they were just two very weird and brief, brief characters, and maybe that's why we don't go to Greenland. I don't know, but it was Yoon, and Hannah, and we we know Yoon died, but did they leave Hannah? I think they left Hannah because she really couldn't bring herself to kill Carol, so I think they just left her.
Right. They did, yeah. I mean, yeah, because once the flare hit her in the neck and Carol kind of looked down, I mean, it was, I don't know, you know what I mean? It was kind of
Yeah,
what a way to.
yeah. So that was a weird instance, and I mean, I guess so far what's bothered me throughout this season was the fact that I mean, Carol just stumbles across this dude who has a plane and easily flies from Maine to Paris. So, but
The other thing that bothered me too was, I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously Carol trying to cover her tracks at the same time, um, of keeping Ash safe. Obviously, we got to split up. That was a great tactic to use. But what bothered me is like, okay, so you have no idea where you're going in France to find Daryl, and you're leaving your only source by himself with, we don't even know how many rounds that gun had. I mean, not only walkers are threats, but obviously Janae's army, anybody else who just says, you know what, I want to take Ash out, and he's just supposed to be chilling there waiting, you know what I mean? Hiding or not, it just, that part didn't sit well with me either.
yeah, and that's what I was going to ask as we kind of look ahead to episode 5. I mean, is Ash still going to be there? Not only is he alive still, like is the plane? Does someone had to maybe stumbled upon him? I would assume maybe somehow Ferlu and Laurent made it all the way somehow and found Ash and the plane. I don't know how they're going to fit all these people on this plane to go back to America, but it only seems really like a two-seater. But
Maybe
at
three
least
if one
Laurent's
lays back
at
there.
least Laurent's kind of small. He could fit somewhere else, but I mean, they're going to be like, "Hey, Falou, you got the short straw in this. You got to stay behind." I don't know. I mean, what do you make of them making it back to the plane? I mean, is Ash still going to be alive? Is he catching Pokemon? Like, what's going on?
I think I think Ash I think Ash is going to draw the short straw there. I think he's gonna end up finding. Here's my fear, because Ash has been such a good dude, such a likable character. Obviously, being finessed by Carol. Um, I feel he is going to find out that Carol lied to him, which is going to break his heart, obviously, because he did it because of his son, and he's going to find out that Carol lied to him as he is dying. That is like true nature of how these kind of characters in the past have kind of gone out. And I feel like the plane is going to become irrelevant soon. And remember at the, what was it, third or fourth episode of season 1, if you can remember, back where Madame Janae still had, she was on a freaking boat, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
she has a navy too. Like, let's not forget that. So I feel like that's at some point going to come into play where maybe the plane doesn't make it. Maybe they go back on a boat even.
Yeah, and that was going to kind of be my big question is, do they even go back to the States? Do they get Laurent back to Commonwealth or wherever they end up going? And I kind of like your idea that I didn't even think of that. Ash, yeah. I'm like, sorry, dude. Like you are staying behind, my friend. Flew, who you just met, knows how to drive planes. And then, they're going to come running up on him if this happens. And, Ash is going to be like, hey, you find your daughter. And then notices it's Laurent. And he's like, your daughter's a boy, right? Something like that. I don't know. But
and then he's going to see Don and he's like, what the hell is this?
yeah, I mean, is this your kid's dad? But yeah, I never even thought of that. Like, yeah, I mean, Ash already got, like you said, finessed by Carol. Although he has played it off kind of cool. He's just like, you know what, I'm going with. He
Right.
kind of made it seem like, I didn't get finessed. It was my choice to go. You need a pilot. Do you even know how to drive a plane? So he kind of covered up him being bitch moved and was like, all right, I'm cool. I'll go to Paris. I gotta get out of here.
Calendar's kind of open. Why not?
Yeah. At first, it almost seemed like, let me go check my book. I got some more fuel to clean or whatever he was doing. I got some more ethanol to polish off here. So, yeah, we will see. We'll see what happens in episode 5. Do you predict any, maybe not big characters, but any more characters hitting the deck? I mean, do you see any more characters dying? And
my fear was definitely Falou. My number one right now being that Daryl and Carol are obviously looking for Laurent. I think my number one fear is Ash dying. Like not only dying, because I really do like his character. I don't want his character kind of just be used and abused and then die. But my fear is that Ash's character is not only going to go out, but go out like a punk. And and the other thing too is I'm almost questioning if the I just drew a blank on Madame Janae's right hand. What was her name?
Sibone? No, I forgot it.
Well, I'm almost thinking like maybe Lassane takes her out. Kind of like a big power move there. Now there's no struggle. Sabine. So what if I'm almost thinking like what if one of I don't think it's gonna be Lassane. I think Lassane's gonna be your main evil bad guy. That's my prediction. And I think that he takes Sabine out.
Yeah, and like you said, although it appeared like they were like, yeah, let's join forces, I think one of them is going to trick the other, I guess, and try to take like there can't be two alphas in this situation. So one of them are going to be like, I'm going to be in control of everybody. If Lassane takes out Sabine, everyone's going to be like, oh, we better follow Lassane. If Sabine takes out Lassane, everyone's going to be like, all right, we got to follow Sabine. So, yeah, I don't think two of them can really coexist. But again, Sabine had been following someone, so she's kind of used to being in that number 2 role. So maybe she can roll with it. Yeah. Maybe she can, but maybe she sees Lassane like we all do. We got to get rid of this dude. Like this. I mean, for as bad as we are for creating World War Z zombies, like he was going to sacrifice a kid for some stupid cult prophecy. Like for as crazy as we are, I mean, this dude is just over the moon.
Right.
So I don't know where that. I mean, I could see a character I want to die is Lassane, but again, he's been playing so well. You're just like, God, can he die already? Like this guy is, and again, the actor, I don't know his name, who plays Lassane is playing him so well.
Great.
almost back. Remember the governor? You were just like, oh my god, dude. Like, I mean,
This guy
David.
can't go away quick enough.
Yeah, Morrissey is playing this guy so well. Like, you want him to die, but he's so slick talking. He's so smooth. You almost like him, but you hate him so damn much. You want him to die. Almost like a Merle, kind of like Daryl's brother too.
Right.
You know, but he's Mary Poppins, y'all. So you gotta. I mean, there's just so much like good acting that you're just like, God, I want this guy to die, but the acting is so good, I kind of want him to stay on the show.
Yeah, the fact that he can convince me every episode that I hate him. That's I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. You're just sitting there like, God, I hate this guy, but Laurent, yeah, he should get bit. Like, you're just kind of like,
he may have a point. Let's just see it
out. Yeah, like, yeah, pass me that Kool-Aid. I mean, yeah, it's crazy that happens in these shows that we're just kind of so invested in. So, yeah, I'm kind of fearful that Falou takes a bullet somewhere. I could totally agree that Ash goes down in a heap of non-glory. Like, I almost see like him like a bullet ricochets off the plane and like rips through his ear, and he's just like, no, just leave me, and he just lets like the walker eat him. Save yourself, God! And he literally has like just a hole in his ear. I could definitely see that happening too. But at the same point, he's made it this far, so he's got to be somewhat tough.
True. And I mean, his whole setup was badass. I mean, that was another thing that didn't sit well with me though. Is like, well, yeah, let's just go to France. I'm like, you just built all that though, dude. Like, you're chilling.
Yeah. And again, timelines in the Walking Dead universe are very, very unknown. So we don't know how long. We don't know how many years it's been since this all started, especially in this Daryl Dixon, story.
Right.
How long has this kind of been going on? So there's a lot of questions more than answers. Again, I'm a sucker for flashbacks. I love seeing those flashbacks. I love going back to seeing, kind of around where the first, where the outbreak first started for some of these people. I'm hoping we see something with Patient Zero here. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I think that's one of the things that you mentioned. Like, it's kind of up to us to kind of almost imagine when that happens, although we want to see it so bad. Because, we've been in Georgia, we've been in Virginia, we've been in Ohio that we didn't know about. We've been somewhat in Maine. We've been in France, going to Dead City with Maggie and Negan. We've been in New York now. Fear the Walking Dead. We were in California. So there's, all sides of it. We still really haven't seen what caused all this. And I do want to desperately see that.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page. Like, I feel like, that old Dane Cook joke when he watches Lost. I got 40 new questions and no answers.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we'll get some, but yeah, it's been a fun ride. I think there's 2 more episodes left in this season, so we'll have episode 5 and 6 to talk about. Hopefully, we'll transition over to Dead City when that comes out. I think that comes out in January, so just a couple months away from returning to Maggie and Negan floating around in New York. And then I haven't heard much about season 2 of Rick and Michonne, and I forgot where they are. I think they're still kind of near Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, or near, I don't know where they are. I'll be flat out honest with you. I don't remember anything about season 1.
Right.
But hopefully we'll transition into that as well. But I want to thank everyone for joining us here on almost semi our inaugural episode. We're calling it episode 1 for right now, but I'll go back and see how many total we've done and kind of update that. But yeah, so hopefully we'll be with you next week and the week after that, discussing episode 5, discussing episode 6. So that'll be fun. Mark, any more final thoughts before we get out of here?
Ash, don't do me like that, man. Make me proud.
Yeah. Don't let him kick you off the plane now.
Right.
I mean, you fought. Well, I don't know how you got that plane, but you.
Damn it, it's yours.
Yeah. You have it. I mean, you almost think about it. You almost restarted the population single handedly.
Right. You had the opportunity. He was the guy.
Yeah, he was chosen for that job. That's pretty. That's a lot to live up to. So,
But no, I appreciate you having me on. Like I said, looking forward to episode 5. Looking forward to see how it all plays out, and can't wait to continue on.
all right. So that'll do it for us here on the Stalking Dead Elevation 5280 Sports and Lifestyle. Make sure you go to all of our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, X. Please subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. And go to our home base, e5280sports.com, and you can find all of our audio, video stuff there, as well as all of our articles as well. So tune in for everything we got going on and more. So thank you for getting involved with us. But for Mark Saxton, I am Michael Spill, and we will talk to you next week.